Alright, the way that you get access to the sound fonts and the blade effects, apart from changing them on the hilt itself, which you can't really do. You can change the color, the blade color, can't change the effects. You need to open up the lightsaber. So we'll spin off the pommel. That's actually just the end cap. And we need to get access to the chassis. So the chassis contains the speaker and all the electronics and the battery. So this is an Asteria 2.5 chassis. So what we have the battery, we have the power clips that meet into the saber to power all the electronics, and we have the soundboard. What we have here, so this, let me just focus that in. The bit right in the middle of the screen is the SD card. So the SD card holds all the files. You just need to slide this little thing, this little clip backwards, and that opens up, and then put it in a card reader. You can, if you're on a PC, you can plug in via the cable that came with it, USB to micro USB, I think. You can plug it in and charge it. It says charging if you do that. There is a tiny little button. If you're on a PC, you can press this button and you can get access to the files without having to remove the sound card. I use a Mac, wouldn't work for me, just wouldn't recognize this as a device. So I actually had to pull the sound card out and put it into a card reader. If you're on a PC, there is a microscopic button that you can press, which is somewhere just here, and you actually won't see it, you'll only feel it using a fingernail. So I can feel a tiny little ridge there. That's the button to get your computer to register this as a device. And then you can get access if you're on a PC. If you're on a Mac, you probably can't, depending on what operating system you're using, all those sorts of things. Okay, so welcome back. This manual you can find online. Just go to the Pach Store and you can get access to the manual. It's not too bad. It's actually fairly comprehensive. Doesn't talk about a few of the things that I had issues with, like turning off movie sound effects. So I had to go and find that separately. But it's actually pretty good. Has the color profiles, how you can adjust the color of the blade, has blade styles. So these are all of your effects on your blade. So we have a static, we have a gradient, dual color, two colors, pulse, etc. FT modes, effects. So on the Vader soundfont I have, or color blade, the red breathes a little bit, and you can change the how often it pulses or it breathes. So the default setting is like 1,000 milliseconds, so it's just way too slow, so you need it a lot quicker. So I brought it down to about 30 to give it that sort of shimmer. What else do we have? Input. So this is the retraction of your blade. So when the blade comes in and out, you can have it fade, you can have it pulse, or with a comet. So fade is the traditional lightsaber in and out, as you saw most of mine. Comet, I think I've got on one or two, puts like a bright glow at the front of your blade retraction, which is, yeah, pretty interesting. Other settings, get down to the free config. There's a heap of stuff down here which users are provided. So you can get access to color profiles for your blades, blade effects that people have created or made, and sound fonts, free and non-commercial. clicking on all these links generally opens up like a Dropbox account, and you can go in there and save the files. Some of them are for Profi boards, some of them were for Versio. There was CFX, which is what the Ultimate Work Saber uses. So that's actually pretty good. So then, what I suggest you do, and what the document says, if you're going to be playing around with your files, is to create a backup. So make sure you've got a backup, so if anything else gets stuffed up or you screw up somewhere down the track, you can always go to that backup, and that's how it came from the shop. Out of the box, just go back to that. You can see here I've done a couple of edits. So this was my first try, this was a Luke only, and you can see I've expanded on them, and I'm just listing out what I've got in this on this board at the moment, just so I can keep track. Edit 1 was a bit of a disaster. Then I decided to just strip everything right back, delete everything, and just start with 1. I wanted to get 1 right in terms of the sound font and the color of the blade, and then I progressively built it up from there. So we'll start from this one. The bank is where your sound effects and blade effects are located. So you can see here, so this bank switch file, this is when you change sound fonts. So when you go from a Luke sound font to a Vader sound font, this is what tells you the sound font that you're changing to. So
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
And you heard that play when I changed the sound fonts on the Saber. Blaster, so this has 4 blaster effects, so it just randomizes when you press the button or the activation switch, it randomizes through blaster effects. And this here is the effect on the blade, so 2 TG. If we go back to our blade style section, we scroll down to TG modes. Number 2 is a part flip. So part of the main color will change to another color depending on the flip color. Adjust time, flip count, length, and color drift. So if we open this up in a text editor, alright, hopefully you can see that. This has settings, so it's mode 2, so this is the second of the TG modes. Then there's a dialogue separator, so everything after this slash doesn't count for anything. And you'll see here, unfortunately this doesn't say anything. Depending on where you get your blade effects from, this will have commentary that you can actually read. So this is saying it's mode 2, the flip time is 60 milliseconds, and it has just heaps of details. These are all different depending on what the effect is going to be. So it was thrilling. And being WAV files, you can actually just listen. These are all our clashes, so you can see here there's 16 clashes. It just randomizes through all of the clash. We have a 4 TG, so if we go down to 4, it's a spread. So a segment will spread on the blade, so that's when you press the activation switch, and you saw that little section highlight. So that was your spread for your clash. Drag effect. This text file, as we can see here, contains lots of information. Hopefully this isn't too small to see. One of the biggest issues I had when I first got this is the sound fonts were super loud. Here is the volume for this sound font, and I've changed it to 8. Out of the box it was set to 20, which was way too loud, and what it was doing, every time I would swing the hilt, because it was so loud, the vibrations inside the hilt were activating the sensors because it was just super loud. So every time I swung the blade, it was just going nuts with all these other effects. So I had to go in and edit the volume on all of my sound fonts because they were all set at 20, which was just crazy. So I brought them down to 8. Can maybe go, yeah, 8's actually a good volume. What I need to do is I've noticed the effects, the sound effects are all still a bit loud. So they really, really dominate the hum. But I'll do that over time. You've got heaps of other information. As you can see here, this is now legible. You can actually read what the information is telling you. You probably don't need to change too much in here, but if you find your lightsaber is doing bizarre things, it might be because the volume is too loud out of the box. So come into this effects text file, open it with text editor or whatever text editor you're going to use, and change that, save it, and your lightsaber should start behaving. Come down to hum, so obviously this is just the hum of the lightsaber. Has a blade effect in it, which is BG. So if we come back here, and it's 1 BG, so it's static. So it only shows the main color only. So it's the green blade. These files are all your swing files, so they are random between these 16 files. When you swing the lightsaber, all the sensors randomizes between any number of these swing files. In, so this is power off when you retract the blade. And this has a 1 IO file. So as we mentioned before, IO is in out, and it's a fade. It's a classic quintessential scrolling effect we all recognize where the color and brightness fades in or out. This one, the other thing that out of the box, all of these timings are really, really incorrect. So when you retract the blade does not scroll with the length of the sound file or of the retraction file. And when you extend the blade, same thing. It was always way too quick. So the blade would retract and the sound file is still going. So you need to come in here and adjust these if you want a half decent looking lightsaber. So as you can see here, we have mode in, it's a fade mode. Direction 0, don't worry about that, but here's your time. So this is in milliseconds, so I've got it set at 800 milliseconds. You need to play around with that number to see what the number is that suits you and to suit what sound font you've got. Each blade retracts, or each Canon blade should retract differently. So you just need to play around with that. Save it, and you know you have a properly retracting lightsaber. Lock up is obviously 2 blades locking together. Out, so power on, so when the blade extends. And the in-out file, I think I've got that set to maybe 800 again. Simple LEDs, I didn't touch these. There's nothing too interesting in the documentation about it, so I've just left them. Stabbing motion, I haven't really used this, but more sound effects. And swing. So these swings, if you're going to change, or if you're going to purchase a sound font from somebody, as I've done with the Luke Besbin and the Vader sound fonts, the only thing you really need to change, you can just pretty much drag and drop all of the files that you get into these corresponding sections. The only one that you need to change is this swing. So this is swing high and swing low. And there's obviously 4 different variants. So when you swing the lightsaber at high, you're going to get a different effect as when it's pointing towards the ground. Sounds like a bit of a Wookiee. So you can hear it change slightly between high and low. If you do buy a sound font package, these will just say swing, or I can't remember what they called it, but it wasn't written specifically like this. For your swings to work properly, it has to be in this format. So SW01 underscore H, FW01 underscore low. They have to be in matching pairs. And then you can expand it out. So some have 4, some have 5, some have 6. So it always has to be high and low, and then the corresponding number to how many sound fonts you've got. That's really the only change you have to make if you're buying separate sound fonts from like SABERFONT or someone like that, which I did for the Vader and the Luke Besbin sound fonts, because they didn't come on the UltimateWorks Saber. So that is my Luke Return of the Jedi sound font and blade effect. And if you look down here, color matrix file, this is the actual color of the blade. So every single color that you want on your lightsaber has to be in this color matrix file, and then you can color switch by holding the 2 buttons down at the same time. You can color switch between each color that you've got loaded here. So at the moment, because this was just my Luke test bank, I guess, there's only 2 colors. So this is red, green, blue. So 0 red, full, almost a full green. So not 255. I like the 235 a little bit better. And 0 blue. And my next color, 0 red, a little touch of green, and full blue. This top row is your main color. The second row is your secondary color. So some of the fonts you can see had different colors coming through. And the third one are like blade effects. So those are completely adjustable to however you want your blade to look. Credits. This was just a bit of a file which I've never touched. More settings just around when it automatically turns on and off, all those sorts of things. System is your miscellaneous sounds. So here's when you turn the lightsaber on. You can change any of these, but it has to have the correct wording. So you can put in any file you want to be your boot file, but it has to say boot, and then delete the original one that it came with. And Bank 2. Bank 2 is pretty much similar. This is the file that I bought from SABERFONT, and this is the Luke from Empire Strikes Back, the blue blade. It's all exactly the same in terms of files. So the files that I bought were Blaster, Blaster 2, Blaster 3, Blaster 4. I didn't have to change any of those. I just deleted what was in here and then copy and pasted the files that I received into each section. I touched on some of these files just to get the blade looking how I wanted it. The effect, again, I had to change the volume down from 20 to 8 so it behaved properly. The hum. So now it's the Luke from Besbin hum. The in-out file, all I did was change the time slightly. But again, so now you can see there were extra additional files for the swing files that I received, that I bought. So I just added in swing setting 5 and made it high and low. So this is the Besbin file that I purchased from SABERFONT. It's for a CFX board, and this is how it comes. So blaster files, boot file, clashes, combos, color, I don't know what color was. Okay, just noise file. Here, these are the files that you need to change. So if you do purchase anything, look for these H-swing files, and this corresponds to the files that we were looking at a moment ago. So these are the ones that you need to change. So it's H-swing 1, H-swing 2, low swing 1, low swing 2, so it's high swing, low swing. So these need to be renamed to SW01H, SW02H, SW01L, for example. Everything else, power on, power off, swings, these can be just copy and pasted. So the swing files, rename them, otherwise that won't work. For some reason this high swing, HY swing, this is just the standard generic swing files. A bit confusing, but you'll see as soon as you look in here, you need to rename those files. And then finally the one that you saw when I previewed before, so bank ones, Luke, Vader. Now let me see if we come down to hum, and there you go. So we have the red blade, but now we also have one FT. So this, as we saw back here, was a breath effect. And if we click on that and we text edit it, so what we see, mode breath 30. So this is period of breath. So this was set to 1,000 milliseconds, so it was a really long, just really delayed change. So I brought that down to 30, so now it's just a quick rapid fire breath. Max brightness 200 and min brightness 40. I haven't changed those, haven't touched those at all. Bank, so this was my Mace Windu with the purple. Again, I've changed the volume, brought the volume down on all of these files down to 8. Okay, this is my Kylo Ren. So you can see here it has a 9BG. So the 9BG, all the other files had a static file. This one is the flame effect. Tossing up between, should it be 8 or 9? I'll play around with those. Probably an 8. I don't know why I put a 9 in there. Probably should be an 8, but I'll play around with that. Still look pretty good though. This one's my Obi-Wan. As I mentioned before, when I originally got this out of the box, I would turn it to the Obi-Wan setting and it would be a rainbow color. And I could not change it from a rainbow color. What there was here, this file here, was actually the rainbow file, which is a 7. And as you can see here, this ignores the color matrix. So if you go to the Obi-Wan file straight out of the box and it has that in it, you can't change it from the rainbow file because it ignores the color matrix. Terrible. That should not be the case. So I've changed that to 1FT, which is a breath, and just like the Vader, it has a nice flicker to it now, just like Obi-Wan's blade should. And then the Ahsoka.
I know Jedi.
As you saw, this is a white blade now. The issue that I have is all of the blaster effects and all of the clashes are all colored white. So I need to actually fix that so you can actually see something happening on the blade. I haven't really changed anything else here. And if we look down now to the color matrix file, there's 7 colors to match my 7 banks of sound fonts. We have my primary colors on top, and a secondary color, and then the clash color. So you can see here down the blade color 7 is my Ahsoka blade, and the bottom row of numbers is set at 255, 255, 255, or 225, 225, 225, which is practically white. That's why when I did the blaster shot, you couldn't see anything. So I need to fix that up. So essentially, this is the way I've gone about fixing my lightsaber up to the way I think it should be. I deleted almost everything and just started from scratch, doing one sound font and one color matrix edit at a time and building it up. I did one, then I did 2 and 3 sort of together because I got the hang of it. Used the manual to go back and find out what sort of effect you want on your blade. I had to go to Reddit to ask a couple of questions to how to turn off the movie sounds. Right, that's what we were going to talk about. So the movie sounds are all sound files contained in here. But essentially the movie sound fonts that occur sometimes when you've got your blade running on a specific sound font, you'll find those somewhere in the sound settings in here. You just need to go through, open up these sound files. There you go. So that one, you can hear stuff in the background. So I would have deleted those. I would have deleted those out so you didn't get those sounds. You can hear Hoth in the background. Maybe not Hoth, might be something else. But if you want to get rid of the movie sounds, that's the only way to do it. Go into the actual sound banks, locate the file, the offending file that's making the movie noises that you don't want, and delete them. So essentially that's how you edit your lightsaber. Once you've got all of those bank files and color matrices and everything in there the way you want it, delete everything that's on your sound card, make sure you've made the backup, and then copy and paste everything on. Put your sound card back in, or put your chassis back in, unplug everything, and you should have your lightsaber running the way you actually want it. Have fun. That's it. Bye.